Hey everybody, today I'm going to go through a toy problem with you. We're going to approach it from a couple different angles and look at some different solutions that we could use for this. So this is one that I found on Code Wars that's kind of fun, and it works really well to demonstrate these different methods. So basically what it wants us to do is this function will break up camel casing. So it's going to take in a string, and camel casing, essentially every word but the first word starts with a capital letter. So it just wants us to put a space in between all the words. So let's start with an array. When I started programming, I used an array for everything because I understood them really well, and I didn't understand string manipulation, and I didn't understand anything about regex. So let's start with the array, the way that I would have done it with the arrays. So basically, what you can do is if you split on a blank string, it takes every letter in the string and puts it into its own index in the array. So then we can go through the array one by one. And, okay, there we go. And if the element at that index is a capital letter, we want to add a space. So if array at I dot match, and this match is basically just regex. It says find this pattern, and if the pattern is found, it's true, otherwise it's false. So this says look for anything capital A through capital Z. If that is true, which means we found a capital letter, then array at I equals space plus array at I. So we'll just add a space to the beginning of that index in the array. Basically, when we're done with this for loop, we have an array with every time there's a capital letter, instead of just a capital letter, it's now a space and a capital letter in that index. So we can just return array.join and join on a blank string again, and that should fix it for us. So here's some examples that I have already written out, where if it takes in this, it should print out this. If it takes in toy problem, it should output that, and so on. So let's plug those all in. So we're going to start with camel casing, and it got that one right. And there's that. And wait, what did it do? There we go. There we go. So that's how you can do it with an array, is by splitting it into so that each letter is in its own index, and then you go through the array one by one, and every time you find a capital letter, you add a space. The next way I kind of want to go through is with manipulating the string directly, and it's a similar setup, honestly. Less than string.length. And here basically what we're trying to do is actually the same kind of thing, except instead of adjusting the array, we're going to adjust the string directly. So if string.character at I, so if the character at that index is capital A through capital Z, then string will equal, let's see, what's it? Oh, I missed the ending pattern. Okay, there we go. Okay, so if we find a capital letter, then we want to take a substring from the beginning of the array up to, but not including I, so from 0 to just before I, add in a space, and then the rest of the string. So that will split the string up into everything up to the capital letter, and then it adds a space, and then it adds in everything from the capital letter to the end of the array, or to the end of the string. Now the one thing you'll notice here is if this happened at index 4, then the capital letter would get moved to index 5, because a blank or an empty string would be put in index 4. And so the next iteration of this for loop would find that same capital letter again, and this would go on and on. So this would be an endless loop. So what we want to do is I++, that moves it on to the next index, basically. And at the very end here, we can return the string. And that one worked. There's that one. And there we go. Okay, sweet. Now the last way I want to go through is just using regex directly. There's a built-in function called .replace in JavaScript that basically takes in two parameters, the pattern it's looking for and what you want to replace it with. So comment this one out. So we're going to take in a string and do this with it. String.replace. And so we will find a pattern, and then we're going to replace that pattern. Okay, well, let's start here. So the pattern we're looking for is, again, capital A through capital Z. And we want to replace it with a blank string plus $1 is a built-in regex thing you can use when you're using something like replace. If you wrap it in these parentheses, $1 is basically the first set of parentheses. So it'll take whatever it finds right here. Let's say it's a capital D. Okay, it will find it. It'll store it in $1, and then you can use it again right here. So we're going to take the capital D, for instance, and replace it with a empty space and then the D again. And by default, .replace will only do this for the first match that it finds. So you add a G at the very end for global, and that says do this throughout the entire string. And there we go. It's working. Test these other two out, and there it is. So there's a couple different ways you can approach that problem. This one, if you understand regex and you understand the .replace function, this one's nice because it's just a one-liner. And you can break that up into a function and return string.replace, and it becomes 3 lines. These ones are also fairly elegant, and I hope you liked the video. Leave any comments or questions you have down below, and I'll see you in a future video. Thanks.